Hey, SavvyPreneurs, let me start by saying this. When you don't educate yourself or research for real, you'll take anything that someone says as face value. I literally watched two videos this morning, one around 5 a.m., another around 7 a.m., both claiming introverts hate people. False! Please look up the actual definition. But what's wild, it ties perfectly into today's SavvyPreneur Power Drop and this week's theme, aligned, anchored, and activated, which, by the way, was already gathered together. So good morning, SavvyPreneur. This week, we're not rushing, we're realigning. We're not grinding, we're anchoring. We're not reacting, we're activating. The assignment this week is clear. Make moves that match your maturity. Protect your mind like it carries wealth. Protect your energy like it funds legacy. Protect your vision like it's already becoming visible. Mindset Monday reminds us discipline isn't punishment. It's the luxury of self-respect. It's also how you prove to your future that you're serious about showing up, whole, steady, and ready. You don't need more time. You need more intention. You don't need a new strategy. You need to listen to what your spirit has already whispered. So, this is not the season to shrink, to fit expectations, or to move fast to prove something. This is the season to move deeply, move wisely, and move with heaven's pace. So take a breath, set the tone, lock in. You've already been anointed for what's ahead. So now it's time to move like it. Welcome to a week of vision, order, and peace-driven execution. Let's build this week with divine rhythm, not emotional reaction. But while we're aligning, let's also unlearn. Because somewhere along the line, somewhere along the way, folks start labeling us based on volume, not value. You got quiet? Oh, you must be an introvert. You're outgoing, loudmouth, chunky butt, extrovert energy, right? Wrong. We're out here believing in personality tests at work, taking love language quizzes at church, and quoting Enneagrams on Instagram. But then we act confused when someone educates us on actual psychological studies backed by research. Here's the truth. Introversion and extroversion are not spiritual gifts or spiritual deficits. They're not insults, they're not excuses, and they're definitely not synonyms for antisocial or too much. So before you label somebody and before you internalize a label that was never meant for your growth, do your homework, not just your holy work. Because calling someone a loudmouth, chunky butt just because they're expressive or assuming someone is standoffish because they're discerning and observant is exactly why so many people miss the assignment on who they're truly called to become. I was told today, I was speaking to a professional about this extrovert thing and not liking people, and they said I was right to feel frustrated. Being an introvert has nothing to do with disliking people. Let's set the record straight, okay? Definition of an introvert. I hate to do this. An introvert is someone who gains energy from spending time alone or in calm, minimally stimulating environments. It's about how they recharge, not how they feel about others. They can love people deeply, but prefer meaningful one-on-one connections over large social gatherings. Introversion is a personality orientation, not a personality flaw. Top benefits of being an introvert: deep thinkers. Introverts often reflect deeply and process information thoroughly before speaking and acting. They're known for thoughtfulness and insight. Excellent listeners because they don't dominate conversations. They listen actively and with intention, making people feel heard. They're creative powerhouses. Many introverts thrive creatively in solitude. Writers, artists, filmmakers, designers, you name it. Emotionally aware. They're typically in tune with their emotions and others, offering high emotional intelligence and empathy. 5, they focus, masters, they concentrate for long periods, making them ideal for complex, long projects. Independent thinkers, they don't need a crowd to validate their ideas. They trust their instincts and do their research. Calming presence. In a loud, chaotic world, introverts bring grounding energy. They can diffuse tension simply by their calm. Strong boundaries, they tend to be very clear about what drains them or energizes them, which leads to healthy self-care and boundaries, but it's good to be self-aware. Quality over quantity, they build deep, lasting relationships and networks that are authentic and loyal. They're visionary leaders. Number 10, contrary to stereotypes, many introverts lead well because they lead with intention, clarity, and quiet confidence. So let's balance the scales. While extroverts have many strengths, here are 5 common downsides often associated with being extroverted or having extroverted tendencies. Number 1, talk first, think later. Extroverts may blurt out things without fully thinking them through, which can lead to misunderstandings or oversharing. Number 2, they struggle with solitude. They often feel uncomfortable or restless when alone, relying on heavily external stimulation to feel fulfilled. Number 3, they dominate conversations. They can unintentionally take over discussions, leaving little room for others, especially introverts or your man, to share. People-pleasing tendencies. Extroverts might say yes too often just to maintain harmony or stay in the spotlight, which can lead to burnout or lack of boundaries. Number 5, FOMO, fear of missing out. Their constant need for social engagement can make them anxious about being left out or disconnected. So let's shift the narrative, because labels don't define leaders. Alignment does. You are not boxed in by anyone's misunderstanding of your presence. You do not have to be louder to be seen or quieter to be respected. You do not have to prove or perform. You just have to stay aligned, stay anchored, and stay activated in truth. This week is about honoring your rhythm, owning your identity, and walking in your lane with unshakable peace and unapologetic clarity. Because when you know who you are, you don't need to explain how you show up. You just lead and you let the fruit speak. Now go be that. Happy Monday, and watch out for chapter 8 dropping on my podcast of Faith Unfiltered. The vision that I created of a bookcast series, and Faith Unfiltered is the first edition under my bookcast series through my Savvy Vision Studios production brand, powered through my Savvy Wife, Savvy Life podcast. So every Wednesday, listen for the drop for each chapter, and it'll go about till maybe I think June 18th. One chapter will be released a week. If you've missed out on the other 7, no worries. Go to where you listen to your podcasts at and hit Savvy Wife, Savvy Life, or hit Faith Unfiltered, because as I said, it is a bookcast series, and the first edition of my bookcast series under Savvy Vision Studios. So it actually does have its own name for you to be able to search. As you see, I am very much a person. My mom's a private investigator, but I grew up with educators in my home. My mom and dad, which technically is my stepmother, but she's my mom. My biological mother is a private investigator. That's probably where I get that research from. But also, what was put in me, my mom and dad are educators, and educators with doctorate degrees, professors that taught at HBCUs, Howard University, Morgan State University. And one thing my mom always said is look up things for yourself. Stop going off what people say. Stop letting people change the narrative. I'm confused on who said introverts freaking hate people. I'm just flabbergasted. So that's why I'm like, well, let's look up some other stuff, because people talk over people. People talk to not listen. They speak to respond and not to comprehend and understand. And actually, that is consistent of what they call an extrovert. You talk too doggone much. You talk over people. But how idiotic does that sound that we would just say, oh, you're just a chunky butt loudmouth? No, that is weird. Stop saying things that are not freaking true. And I really want to say another word, because I'm passionate about people researching things, looking up things for themselves. When you know who you are and where you're lacking. One thing I admire about my ex-husband and my son, one of my sons, he's called Mr. President. He's on the football team. But guess what? Mr. President name followed him from Georgia to California. And these people didn't know each other, but that just lets you know that that's what he exudes. That is what he exudes. He dominates. He walks in a room and he don't got to say nothing. Everybody see him, and that is, how my ex-husband was. I admire, and I always told them that. I'm like, I admire how you just get out and you just talk to people and you just this and that. That is like an extrovert quality. I'm like, I kind of wish I was like that, because I want to run a business and I'm more so observant. I watch things. I'm this. And then I ended up speaking through one of our churches, like well over 10 years ago. She was like a relationship something, but she was a psychologist, and she talked about introvert and extrovert. That is a freaking thing. Everybody else wants to talk about these enneagrams and church things and love language. Where do you think this crap came from? Like, at least when you want to talk about that, refer back to real things that have a study and research under them that psychologists speak about as well. Introverts and extroverts, because you got to know where you fall in. If you talk too much, people know if they talk too much and you talk over people. One of my friends does that. I'll be talking and she'll just talk like I never, whatever. So I started doing it to her. And I said, that's rude, right? And then I said, you talk over me. And she was like, oh my gosh. She's like, I'm so sorry. Guess what? She didn't defend herself. I said it in a nice way. And she's like, I have that issue. I just be talking and talking. But guess what? When you recognize certain things within yourself, when I knew I wanted to build a brand and a business, I knew that I wasn't just in people's faces. I knew that I was a little bit more reserved. I look at things. I'm this, I'm that. I know that I'm a thinker, and now it aligns. Once you get to know yourself, then you know how to combat, still be yourself, but in your element of that is your brand, your business. You talk, you become that extrovert. You become what you need to in that moment to get across the information that you need to get across. And I've learned that and I've worked on that. But when people walk around here and say things don't freaking exist, that's like saying, I don't see color. You know what? That's a whole nother thing, because when you say that, that's ignorant and rude. But anyway, that's a whole nother whatever. But at the end of the day, people need to stop pretending like things don't exist. When you know who you are, and then you can change certain things that you don't particularly vibe with. You might be cool with being quiet, but when you have a business and you're prophesying and it's going global, international, blah, 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 you can't just be all by yourself. You get what I'm saying? You got to talk to people. You have to find that genuine level. And that's one thing about introverts. We're genuine, we're visual. Now it let me see like, oh, that's why I'm in film and TV production. They're filmmakers, they're this, they're visionaries, they're creative, they're whatever. And people follow them. They lead and people follow, because you know why people follow us? Because you follow us, but we follow God, and we lead with a quietness, and that's something sustaining and foundational about that. So research. I watched something else. And I'll go ahead and say who it was. It was Muhammad Ali. It was an old video, and he had said something about, doesn't it say, something about white people, something in the Bible? Guess what? And he said John 4:18 or 4 something. Guess what? I was like, I have never freaking heard that ever in my life. I said, but guess what? I don't know everything. You know what I'm saying? So let me look this up. And that is not true. It does not say anything remotely near that in the Bible. But it does switch. Again, that's another subject. But it does talk about something in the Bible. But this is where people change the narrative to fit what they want to talk about and disseminate. That is not freaking true. Okay? And neither is the extrovert. It's not freaking true. And if it's freaking true, then you're a loud butt, chunky monk ass. Oh, excuse me. You know what I'm saying? That you talk without listening. You talk without, truly comprehending and understanding. You listen to respond. You talk over people. See how ignorant that sounds? So stop it. Look up things and find out the pros and the cons, and then you might find where you fall somewhere in there, and you might need to change it, especially depending on how you're growing, how you're building, whatever it is that you're building, how you parent, how you talk to your husband, the people that you attract, your friendship, your network, all of that makes a difference. And when you truly know who you are at the core and start researching things and looking them up, then you become the best version of you. You're the CEO of your life. But I'm going to end this, and tune in next week for next Monday's SavvyPreneur Power Drop, and every Saturday for the weekend view of the Savvy Circle, Unfiltered and Unscripted, because there are things like this that I really want to get into. Real life, real things, real raw. We don't sugarcoat anything. I don't care about your feelings, because feelings don't move anything. At the end of the day, I could feel today that I want to punch somebody in the face, and then an hour from now I could be okay. So F your feelings is about facts. Let's equip ourselves with facts so we know how to move accordingly. Okay? Bye, guys.